Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Emily Moyer. Dani Katz is here. This is episode number 67 of Words. Good afternoon. It's Wednesday afternoon. How are you?
I am well. Thank you.
newly light of responsibilities. And
I'm like slashing, burning left and right. Like, yes, feels really good.
Yeah. Okay. All righty. So maybe today's going to be a little shorter show than we've been doing the last few times. I think we're both I know I'm super I fell asleep on the couch just like I was eating lunch and I fell asleep. I've been so tired.
Oh, did you have like your plate on your lap?
No, I had like pushed it off to the side, but I was just sitting, like sometimes like you recognize you're falling asleep and okay, other times you have no idea and you just woke up and you're just like, what the fuck happened? Right. So, anywho, yeah, this has been an interesting time for me because I've been doing, I picked up this other job. I was supposed to do 1 day a week and maybe an occasional second day for 4 hours a week, right? So 8 hours every week, 6 to 8 hours every week on Thursday, and maybe one other like half day every other week. And okay, so that was fine. It's a pretty physical job. The first time or two I did it, it was tiring, and then I got used to it and I was getting a little rhythm. And then all of a sudden it was, can you do a second day? Because we got this big order and so for a month, the next month, can you do a second day? So could you do Monday and Thursday? And so I was like, okay. So I figured it'd be like 6 or 8 hours Monday, 6 or 8 hours Thursday. It started like things got so crazy and the new scenario was so challenging that it basically turned into like 12 to 14-hour days, both Monday and Thursday. Physical labor pretty much the whole time in the refrigerator. And then it was like, oh, and also like we could use some help at ACL, right? And I was just kind of like, something in my head was just like, go do it, like make all the extra money because I'm getting to like in a very small amount of time. Like the reason I had picked up the extra job was to have a day away from the computer because I was having the dizziness thing that I told you about. And also next year we would like to improve our living situation. Like we have a nice apartment in a nice building, but it's very small. And I'm sort of, for how small I am, I'm pretty big and loud. But so we either want to get a little bit bigger of an apartment or maybe see about buying a house at some point or whatever. So we've both picked up side hustles to earn a little extra money. Right. And so, but it's been so much physical labor. And it's been an interesting process. I'm exhausted all the time, but I've also had good shows during that period of time. Like the balance out has been good, but it's like, I don't know if I was just trying something else on to see if I I like doing this. I like talking to you and I like talking to Michael and Nish, the people I do recurring shows with, Jeff and the guests and stuff like that. But there's a whole, as you've learned, this whole other reality that nobody sees that goes along with it that becomes like just that it grows into this big monster. So I wanted to try something else. And, maybe that's what I was really doing. And there's a much easier way to make a living doing that, right? A much easier way to make a living, but it's also like, I don't know that it's the best use of my intelligence and my unique skills, right? So it's like it's one of these things. It's like, how is it that like the mindless jobs can provide a living, right? And then like I have moments when I do this that I know I'm doing exactly what I should be doing, and there's like not another person who can do it exactly the way I do it. That doesn't mean there are other people who don't do it better or their own way or whatever. But I know I have my moments. And then it's like, it's like, it's almost impossible to make a living doing this, right?
It's how the system set it up. I mean, I don't think it's almost impossible. So I'm going to invite us to like keep open the space for possibility, but it's like you're being rewarded for not doing your genius, but for just menial labor. And then everything else is extra. It's like today I went and I refilled my laundry detergent bottle. It's more expensive than if I just bought a new one. And it's like, there's no incentive for us to share our genius. There's no incentive to recycle and be kind. Like it's completely set up that way by design.
Well, and it also like, sure, I'm clever. I can see that there's different things I could say or do to expand my audience or to earn more income, but I don't want to, right? Those things are, like it's not what I want to do. And I also look at what is really popular, what there's a market for out there. And it's, and it's when I look at that, I'm like, I can't even be mad, right? Because if that's the things that people are really interested in, right? I was listening, and I don't mean this in any sort of offensive way, because like there was a time when like that was new information to me too. It was a long time ago, but I was listening to Millie Weaver on Dark Journalist, right?
I tried. That was I couldn't get through it.
Well, I mean, like I don't know. There's been so few good things, interesting things on YouTube lately that like. But also, I think I'm really trying to take a picture of the landscape and like see like, okay, if I can build a house, where can I build it, right?
But I feel like Dark Journalist has been doing some really interesting, meaty shows. Like between Dark Journalist and Peace Stealer, I'm good, but that particular one.
Well, I listen to a little bit of several of his shows. I very rarely listen to a whole show. I'll pop in here and there. Like I'm of multiple minds. Like every once in a while, there's something interesting, but also sometimes I feel like my and lots of other people's intelligence are being insulted by listening to some of the things they say. But I'm listening to Millie Weaver and him, and I'm just like, that people were eating it up, and there's a lot of, I'm like, if this is the thing that people are into, that's just what the market is right now. Like, right. That's just where things are and where people are at. And it's okay. Like, it's just, like that's fine. And it's also like, okay, well, like maybe it's time to look at other stuff and try other things and see what's going on. And like, there was a time when that would have felt like, couple of years ago, that would have made me fired up or mad or upset or sad. And now it's just like, it's just how it is, right? Like, that's just where it's at. And that there's such a big market for that. Like when I was going through a phase 10 or 12 or 15 years ago, where that information would have been interesting to me, there was a lot less people that were there with me. And now there's a lot of people there. So if that's kind of like what, it's just, that's how it's moving forward or whatever, it is what it is. But I also feel like I've been having great shows lately. I think you've had some great shows lately. I feel like I've been having great shows. So like it's the balance of the two. It's like maybe I can do multiple things, and also that way I won't get bored. I don't know.
I'm still urging you to outsource the production stuff. I'm still nudging you that way.
If I have to overcome somehow the feeling that like that wouldn't create more work for me to have to sort all that out to give to someone else. I don't want to do that either.
I mean, at this point, because, shout out to Eric, to Amy, and to Jacqueline, who helped me with my podcast, but like, we've got a really good flow. Yeah. It saves me a ton. There's no extra effort. They've just lightened my load massively.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to me, if I could like overcome like letting go of my archive and just not worrying about looking backwards at all in terms of like posting.
Let it go. Just decide to let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess there's a part of me that feels like the people who have followed me and subscribed to me for a long time on Patreon and locals or whatever, if I'm wanting them to move to my website, then the things that they could get on those other places, it needs to be available there on the website instead of just like a blank wall in the back. But maybe it doesn't even matter. Maybe people don't even look back anymore. I don't look back. I don't know why I don't assume that everybody just does what I, right?
I mean, I would just say whatever you're saying, if I could do it this way, give yourself just do it that way.
Do it that way.
How, your people who followed you that long understand how much you've put into this.
Right.
Like it's fine.
It's fine. I'm going to do something. I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. I'm going to figure something out. I'm going to do something different. Anywho, but I feel like we've been having good shows. I love doing it. I feel like I've been having good shows with all my people. So it's like, I'm not tired of doing this. I like this, but.
Yeah, I'm the same. It's just like streamlining and tweaking and finding like our just right alchemy of how much of this to do and give, because it takes a lot of time and energy.
Takes a lot of time and energy. But I'm just going to say this. We didn't even talk about saying this. Like, I decided the other day it would be neat if you and I could go on like a little speaking tour, like a little game tour.
I got your text. Listen, I gave you the thumbs up, but it wasn't like a brush off. I was like,
No, I know. I felt like you liked it. Yeah.
yeah, because it feels like, I mean, which we're going to talk about today. We've been talking about this for 3 years now, and everything we've said has come true or is coming true. So yeah, I'm right there with you.
So if there's anybody out there in the audience who has any experience like arranging, like, I mean, I guess it could be sort of a speaking to, like, it could be like a speaking tour, or it could be you have a book out and you have another new book coming. So it could almost be aligned with, like, you could have a stop for the book tour, but then there could also be a talk with the, or so, I don't know, something like that. If there's anybody out there who like knows how to do that well, or right, or any people who know that they're a place where they have a location where people would like to come and hear us do our banter and do whatever the fuck it is that we do, then let us know.
Yeah.
I'm super down for doing things in the real world. Like the one thing, like I cannot stand music festivals. I was working at ACL, right? I don't understand the draw of that shit at all anymore. But that said, like, since my company's bar is like in the VIP area, like I did, and they have this cool like Airstream speakeasy set up. Like I did meet some like really nice people just like sitting around and talking back there. And it's like, wow, I really like to talk to people face to face and not just on the computer. I like talking.
Yeah, I'm the same. And I put this out, like, as long as we're putting our asks out, like, I want someone to help me put together that kind of book tour, like where I can, like, the places that I can go and speak and read. So yes, if someone has experience, get in touch with us.
Get in touch with us, please. Okay, Dani has a list of things she'd like to talk about today, and I'm in agreement about all of them. So that's just what we're going to do today.
Where do we want to start? I have Talib, PayPal, Tulsi, and then this extra DEI thing that we may or may not have time to
go in
get.
a line so we don't get confused and forget anything.
Well, what do we want to
save for order, or like
we want to save for afterwards?
Okay, so what do you have? You have PayPal,
Talib and Tulsi.
And then so definitely the DIE thing in that's okay. So that's back there. I'm trying to like.
Do we want to start with Tulsi, PayPal, or Rashida?
I don't know. Tulsi, PayPal. We don't have. There's not a three-sided coin. I don't know.
I feel like PayPal will take the least amount of time.
All right, so let's do PayPal and one of the T's.
Let's do PayPal and Tulsi, and we can do Talib
and DIE on the back end. Okay, very good. Here we go. Starting with PayPal. I did talk a little bit about PayPal with Howdy and Michael yesterday. That show's not going to be out till next week, but let's get at it from our angle here.
Well, I think everyone knows what happened with PayPal, which was they sent out a new user agreement, which I read these all the time. And it was, they just keep squeezing tighter. So the last one was, we can deplatform you at our discretion, for no reason, and we'll seize all the money in your account. So it was like, okay, I'm aware, no longer keep any money in PayPal. This new one was, we can seize your account, delete your account for any reason based on offline activity at our discretion, and we'll fine you for damages $2,500. And it was like, oh, that's going to be super interesting. So then it was like everyone deleting their PayPal and their stocks plummeted. I'm trying to think where to go to this. My head is going in so many directions. I don't want to delete PayPal for one reason. They have really good customer service. In a sea of weaponized customer service where there isn't any anymore, I get the best service from PayPal, and they're so nice and they're so responsive. And so that keeps me wanting to use them. So I was just like, let me just watch and see how this goes, because it wasn't until November 3rd that everything was going to be implemented, and it would give me time to get everything off. I got an email today from No Agenda. John C. Dvorak is having like a freak out that everyone has canceled their PayPal donations and they're in like kind of emergency. And he was giving the same perspective I was, which is PayPal has really good customer service. Like they're actually a really good, similar to self-publishing on Amazon. I know all the reasons why it sucks and it's shifting a little bit, but it has been great customer service. So I called PayPal yesterday and I'm like, where are we at with this? Like, I know you guys are rolling it back. So contrite, so apologetic. So the pendulum is swinging the other way of like,
well, let me ask you real fast. What did you ask? So you called your friend at customer service because you like them so much. And I'm guessing that after me, they're your favorite people to talk to on the phone.
I talk to them as much as I talk to you. I mean, it's just in a sea of dwindling customer service.
Anytime I can get like a person on the phone with like a big company like that, that I can have a back and forth conversation with where we understand each other and that is nice and friendly and gives me their name and asks if there's anything else I can do right at this time. Like, yeah, I agree with you. Both Amazon and PayPal, I've always gotten, if I've done emails about something or phone calls, I've gotten responses within a reasonable amount of time. And I can't say that about any of the other companies that I work with that I pay way more money to, like Patreon. Locals has great customer service too. Locals is great.
Locals is great. Sometimes there's a little bit more of a lag. Obviously, PayPal's much bigger than Locals.
Great.
The other upside to Locals is they're all native English speakers who I'm guessing in North America, which is also super rare. So here's my thing is that I've noticed like other people in our podcast tribe and other people in the truther movement saying like, hey, this is a sign of where it's going. Mm-hmm. So everyone get off.
Okay, hold on 1 second before you go there, because I do want to go there. But I just want to ask you, when you called your friend at PayPal, what was exactly the question? Like, what question did you pose to her? Hey, I love that you have customer service, so I don't really want to leave, but this is a problem for me. And what is actually going on?
Okay, so what I asked was, hey, I know you guys made this big oopsie. And the customer service guy was like, please don't take it out. Like his whole thing was like, I'm not higher up. It's not my decision. I don't have an opinion here. And I'm like, dude, you're safe with me. Like, I hear you. I was like, my question was, okay, you sent out this fascist announcement and then you've lost a ton of customers and your stocks plummeted, but I haven't gotten a revised agreement. So help me feel comfortable continuing to do business with you. I need something in writing that says you're not going to be fining me, that you're not going to be thought policing me. P.S. Like, this is my trump card is, like, not only am I a professional journalist, I do have a master's degree in journalism. So if you're going to attempt to accuse me of misinformation, you're going to have to pull out some pretty major stops to prove that you know more about the truth landscape that I do. So like, let's get that on the public record. But what I was asking for was like, I need to see in writing what your new user agreement actually is,
right?
So that I can stay comfortable doing business with you. And this was fun. So he and I went through the website together. They're in limbo. They don't have any legal updates on their website right now. They're in scramble mode. So whereas most of the people in our community that I've seen are like, get off, I'm like, no, because this is such a big oopsie. Now they're going to have to kiss my ass even more. Do you know what I'm saying? Like they're going to have to roll it back really far. So I actually feel like the customer's in pole position with PayPal right now versus everyone else who's jumping ship. And I also disagree that this is a sign of where it's going. I think the reaction was so strong that they know that they can't pull this. Now they're going to have to pull back and start respecting their customers. This is my 2 cents. I also feel like I'm going to pass out. Ooh. So I might need to grab a little bit of food.
Okay, let's just push pause and go grab a snack.
Okay.
Okay, so a couple of things. So I never looked at the user agreements on PayPal until you started telling me that you were obsessed with reading them. So then I did start looking, and I decided a couple of months ago, I stopped getting my Patreon payment, which is my biggest payment, to PayPal, and I shifted that straight into my bank account. Right. So now like only I basically use PayPal to pay for other things now. And occasionally, I'll have some payment come in through there, but I generally either move it off really quick or just use it to cover what other little things are there. But I stopped moving a lot of money through PayPal. And so I'm less anxious about it now. But one of the things, so I think there's a couple of things going on. Like, what do you think that was about? Do you think that it was a test run? Do you think it really was an accident? What do you think happened? You think they were trying it on for size and then they just backpedaled and pretended? Like, what do you think the truth was?
Do you think it was an accident? Fuck no.
I don't think it was I know I don't think that, but like why I don't understand why they would have thought that that would be okay. Like the week before they did that, they were already starting to face court action in the UK about like bringing them under the same kind of controls that that banks are under because of what they did to a couple of human rights groups. So like, I don't understand why they would have thought they would have been able to get away with it right now. Like maybe during the height of COVID, they could have gotten away with that, but I don't understand why they would think they could get away with it now.
I think it's like, I think everything right now is a test. I think what's going on with Rashida Tlaib is a test. I think what's going on with what we just saw with Tulsi and Joe is a test. I think it's another test. They might have determined this timeline of rollout a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, you know? So I think because there hasn't been pushback when like, you know, all these journalists have had their accounts seized and deleted, it's like, well, maybe I can get away with this and maybe I can get away with this. So I think it was like, they thought they were going to get away with it. I mean, and they didn't realize, because before it was like, well, we can seize up to $2,500 from what's in your PayPal balance.
Right.
But this was like, no, now we're just going to charge you $2,500, even if it's not in your PayPal.
Oh, okay. I didn't get that. Okay, yeah.
So they'd gone way over. And for whatever reason, like there was enough people deleted their accounts that they, you know, that they pulled it back. I think they're lying. It was not a test. It was not a mistake at all. I think it was like, oh, we could get away with this much fascism, right. Oh, too much fascism. So now we're going to make up this story. That was a mistake. Obviously, it was a mistake.
So I think a couple of things. So I think, yeah, I have no love for PayPal necessarily, but I think there's this push, that hashtag delete your PayPal, right? And everybody being like, you need to do that now. Like to me, just, of course, there's like a part of me that says, yes, of course we should delete our PayPal, right? Like we should delete all this shit. Like, right. But there's another part of me that is like, well, okay, there's not any obvious, much better kind of thing. And so if everybody moves to some other thing that seems better now, like it could just be in 6 months that they're doing the same thing. And then we're just all playing hopscotch and creating disruptions in our business and losing, you know, customers and things along the way. So I never do anything like right at the moment like that. I generally kind of wait and see how it plays out a little bit. But I've seen like a couple of things that make me suspicious. And then the conversation I had with Howdy and Michael about it yesterday, and I'll tell you what we were kind of talking about was, obviously like Dan Bongino has a new payments thing. And whenever there's a like equal but opposite partisan kind of solution, like I'm suspicious of that because it may be like, I wouldn't surprise me if someone like Dan Bongino was like, you can't criticize Israel or you can't, you know what I mean? Like, so there's no, whenever
also the timing of it.
So I'm suspicious of that because that part is sort of being like promoted and it's going along with around the same timing as Rumble going public and all of this other kind of stuff that's happening. And, you know, Rumble's better than some of the others. It's not perfect. Like, you know, there's issues with each and everything. Right. But it's like, okay, so you can do that one. There's Stripe. Stripe only works for certain things. Like some things you can't use Stripe for. But then also, what else is? But right.
Stripe doesn't. Because I moved after PayPal's last user agreement.
Right.
I moved my whole business off of PayPal onto Stripe. But it doesn't. It's the same thing you and I are dealing with the video platforms. It doesn't have a lot of the features, therefore it makes my life a lot more complicated.
It's great for some things, like it works wonderful with locals, and it works fine with you know, certain aspects of your website and things like that, but other things it doesn't do. So then what are you left with? You're left with like Venmo, right, which is owned by PayPal. It's fucking difference. But also, and this was Michael's point, and then I brought some things that he, you know, is all of these other payment systems are much more phone-based, right? They're much more convenient. They're much more phone-based, but all of them are like, a lot of them use QR codes, right, for things. And a lot of them are like this, you know, like things like Cash App and different stuff like this. Like it's really getting people to abandon PayPal is largely getting them move to having all of their payment information on their phone, right? Which is a whole different ballgame. And if you like, one of the things I noticed when I was working at the festival and stuff this week, and I've noticed this at like parties and things like that, a lot of these places are cashless and they want you to use Venmo or Cash App or, you know, that kind of stuff, right?
That's a hard no, please. Everyone.
That's a hard no for me too, right? It's a hard, yeah. I'm just saying. So if you have people who are deleting PayPal because they're mad about that, right? Then they think they're choosing these other things as like a solution. Well, it's not perfect and I don't really like the phone thing, but they're not going to steal $2,500 from me. But it's a soft step towards conditioning, doing all that stuff through your phone and doing everything cashlessly, and a much quicker step towards social credit type of tracking on the phone. Because I also happen to be listening to the same morning somebody talking about how, like, in China, a lot of people are forced to keep certain apps on their phone that track them all the time, right? Including Americans who go there and visit. Sometimes when you're coming in through customs and whatever, they force you to put certain apps on your phone. And these apps that are about just like, you know, easy payment with the QR codes, we don't know what the fuck else they're doing, right? But everyone's like, oh, it's so easy. And I did this to sort of stick it to the man about the PayPal thing and whatever, right? Think about, you have all these people going around #delete PayPal, and at least 50% or more of the solution to getting rid of PayPal would now be phone-based payment systems, as opposed to, because the person who doesn't have certain things can't even have Stripe. If you don't have a business or a website, you can't even have Stripe.
Yeah, Stripe was kind of hard to get. Well, what's interesting about this was is the timing of all these things popping up, like a glorifying Candace Owens. It's so interesting, the timing, because only like literally a month ago, when I was moving my business off of PayPal, I was doing all this research and there were not nearly as many options as all of a sudden just appeared this week.
Right.
Those didn't agree. And given like G. Biden's, you know, that scary
G. Biden
he gave with that like dark red fascist thing, like all these things that are like for patriots, I'm not going to sign up for those either. That feels like I feel like we're being herded left and right. That's why I'm like,
I never do anything that is for patriots. I'm just completely anti doing anything.
No, which is frustrating for me because I feel like that would be a really great market for my pop propaganda book.
Right.
But I don't want to do anything for the patriots. I refuse to do business with any company that requires a phone or an app. That's a hard no.
Right.
I'll just live in a tent before I'm required to do anything with my phone. So that's why I'm like, PayPal just lost so much money. Now they have to double back and bend to the customers. So in this moment, I don't feel aligned with leaving PayPal. I'm going to see how it goes. And I'm like, I kept saying everything. I'm like, I know this phone call is being recorded. So until you guys send me a new user agreement that tells me exactly what it is, here are the stipulations that I'm laying out. And this will count as the paper trail, you know, until I get your new user agreement. But I have to say, they might be the nicest customer service of any of them.
Yeah, I've never I've never had a problem with PayPal. Now that you like bring that up, it's not something I spend time thinking about, because I guess, you know, I just assume that a big company that makes a lot of money should have good customer service. But
but even Dvorak said the same thing in their newsletter of like, actually PayPal's like everyone who just screwed us by deleting your PayPal, they're actually a really good company to deal with. So it's like all these different factors. And it's also important to look at like, well, why aren't they pulling this shit with Venmo, given that I think it's a test. It's all just these tests.
But Venmo is mostly phone based, right? So if the purpose, if the overall purpose behind this, and let's just say that there's probably even people working within PayPal that we know this. If they intelligence agencies are putting people in media rooms, they're putting them in big tech, including PayPal and this kind of the other thing. Like it's 100% be that like there was multiple iterations of the new user agreement to go out, and somebody just decided I'm going to send this one because it's going to get everybody to go over here. And I mean, there's a million things that could be going on. But I see that PayPal can become the sort of quaint analog version of online payments to a certain, I mean, it's still digital, but in terms of like, they try and get me whenever I log into PayPal, they try and get me to switch to using like the QR code kind of thing, but they don't force me to. You see that thing pops up? They don't force me to, right? And you know,
not giving me that.
I mean, it doesn't happen every time. I think it happens on the phone. If I try and log in on the phone, that's when it happens. I don't think it happens on the computer. Okay. But they let me just say no. And then, okay, that's fine. I understand that for some people who don't care about the things we care about, that makes life easy and fine, and they don't give a shit, right? They should be able to not give a shit and do whatever they want. But I can see it's kind of like, once Facebook became a shit show, some people liked MySpace seemed like quaint and analog and not as fucking Big Brother and suspicious. So PayPal may move into this new place where it's highly valued by people who do not want to do phone-based business that way, right? And they may start to, you know, not like roll back some of these policies or not enforce even the ones that they have because they have recognized that they're going to lose all sort of legitimacy and staying power if they do that. But I'm very suspicious whenever there's a large movement where everyone is like, delete, walk away. Think about all this kind of stuff. And there's something else right there that is equally bullshit ready for people to go to. Like this would all, like, I would be more in support of some of these things if there weren't that automatic answer. It's like, you know what? We don't have a solution, but we need to walk away from moral grounds and let's work together to develop something over the following weeks and months and years. And we're going to suffer through having to go back to writing checks or the old fashioned kind of thing like that.
I want us to go back to checks like that. Like that's where I'm like, I'm starting to like, in terms of being paid for my business, either cash or checks, like I want off of all of that. And I'm telling you, these platforms were not there a month ago when I was trying to do this.
Yeah. So this, I mean, this is there, but I think more than it is like suspicious because one company is mostly benefiting. I think they're really trying to get people to move to phone-based finance stuff for their businesses so that they can, you know, it's a way of conditioning people to accept digital currencies, online banking, like phone-based banking instead of computer-based banking, which provides you different levels of anonymity and security than the phone, right? All those apps have other kinds of trackers and things like that go on. And I mean, there's 1,052 reasons, and someone will feel much better about being forced into phone-based financial transactions if they think it's their choice as a protest thing than if you're told your account is going to close in 30 days if you don't transfer to the blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, right? Of course. And just everyone who got their panties in a bunch over this. And I've been posting user agreements for years.
Yeah.
Yeah, on all of them. And no one has ever rallied behind me. You know, when I tried to get you to leave YouTube with me, you know, like no one has. But when I saw this, I'm like, I don't trust this, you know, that, and given like G. Biden's domestic terrorism bullshit, it's like maybe everyone who just deleted their account is now on a list. That's an easy way for them to hurt us.
Just deleted their account, right? They may not be able to get back on if they want to, or maybe if you go back on now, you're automatically herded into a new version of PayPal. That, I mean, there's like 1,052 things that could be going on, but I don't ever do anything anymore, like in the immediacy of the moment. I always wait, right? And also I know that a lot of times the things being offered as the solution are worse. Like I remember like when people were leaving social media, Twitter and Facebook, and going to like some of these like Parler. Jeff did a full back end look at Parler. He's like, you could not pay me to open an account on that site with the amount of bullshit data mining and all kinds of crazy shit that you're signing your life away for, right? And so I just don't like, I'm really not signing up for anything new at all anymore. It's more just like things will fall away and then I'll have to go back to an old way of doing them or person to person kind of stuff. Like I'm tired of signing up for shit. Like I pay $3 more for certain things at the market because I'm not willing to sign up for their dumb little discount thing or whatever it is, right? Like I'm just done signing up for shit.
Yeah. But what I do think is, because I was also talking to a couple friends about all this automation self-checkout stuff, and a friend had a friend who works at Whole Foods, and she says that their theft has skyrocketed since these self-checkouts. And so it's like, I can see it going one of two ways. A lot of what they're trying is failing, so the people are winning, or like with the self-checkout, it's like a frog boiling thing to get to like a different level of tracking and security. But my take on what just happened with PayPal, and this just could be cherry Mary sunshine since I've stayed, is that whatever they tried failed, and now the people have like score one for the people. They know that this shit isn't going to fly with us.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm with you. I'm not going anywhere for now, right? I'm keeping limited amount of money there because I also don't trust them.
Nothing there. I keep nothing there, but it's handy for other things.
It's handy for certain things. And I don't, but also it's interesting to me that like Candace Owens has the big delete your PayPal the same week that she's getting like the most attention she's gotten in a long time for the White Lives Matter thing, right?
I also remember her freedom phone thing.
No.
You know, remember when she did this big push for freedom phones that her husband had something to do with? Exactly. Yeah, just the timing of it was so weird. Like, oh, you're at Fashion Week with Kanye and you're pushing us to glorify? Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. I just, whenever people have this stuff all queued up and timed perfectly, I'm suspicious. Right.
I'm the same.
I just like, I'm also just to the place with all this, like, I'm so bored and fatigued of it all. Right. Like that just every time there's a new thing, we all have to get our panties in a wad and worry about what it means for us and this, that, and the other thing. And, you know, like a lot of times it's not what people think it's going to be. And then other times it's exactly as you say, everybody jumps ship, they get something worse. And, you know, so yeah, I'm not doing anything right now. And I'm also suspicious. Like I'll stay with whatever company allows me to be the most analog, as long as they're not just like absolutely, doing something sort of horrendous. I don't want to do all that. I don't like cashless. I don't like having to charge up a wristband when you go to some shit. I don't like any of that crap.
That's a hard no. I just won't.
Yeah, I don't do it. Yeah. I just don't even like being where that's the thing. Like I don't do it.
No.
Right.
People mention QR codes. Like I never bring my phone anywhere with me. I'm never going to scan. Like that's just never going to happen.
I don't like it when I have to bring my phone to my party because my ticket is on my phone.
I won't do it.
So sometimes, you can't, like it used to be back in the day, you would go to the record store and buy your ticket to the party. Right. Or you could pay at the front door. Now, sometimes you either can't pay at you can sometimes, but it's far more expensive than buying a pre-sale. But if you buy a pre-sale, then it comes to you generally on your phone. Sometimes they'll come to you in your email and I can print it out on the printer and I'll bring my printed out thing. But there's some of those that just do it sort of through the phone. I don't like that. And I also I can't dance with my phone in my pocket. Like it disrupts my flow. Right. And so the worst thing for me ever is when I have to bring my phone to a party because I'm meeting someone and there's my phone is ringing. Hold on a second. Hold on.
Do you want me to? Oh, I can't pause us.
I am mid-show. Can I?
I can't pause us because I don't have screen record capabilities. So we will patiently wait for Emily's return.
Okay, sorry about that. Lisa's been trying to call for like a couple of days and we keep missing each other. So
here's the thing. I will not take my phone anywhere. It doesn't say in the Constitution that I have to have a phone with me.
Right.
And I don't, and I refuse.
Right.
So if they send me something, I'll take a screenshot and print it out. But if narcissists push it with me, then they'll lose my business. But I encourage everyone to push back because we don't want to be a digital dependent slave society. Just say no.
I don't like it. Like, right. That's a good idea. If it's in an app, I'm just going to do that. Taking a picture. That's a good idea.
If I'm meeting friends, I'm just like, I'm leaving now. I'm not bringing my phone. I'll be out front. See you there. The way we used to do it.
If I am meeting a friend and for some reason, like I have to bring my phone in, then once they arrive, I make them hold my phone for the rest of the party.
There are just too many problems with this. Just don't. You never have to bring your phone.
Well, that's for me, and you never have to. If I'm going to party by myself and I'm not like meeting up with people, I never do, right? But sometimes because of the way things are arranged, but I force them to suffer by having to hold my phone. So then they have like phones in each pocket and they really can't dance, but I'm like spinning around having a good time.
Yeah, hard no on the phone while dancing.
Yeah. But yes, I agree with you that it shouldn't have to be that you have to have a phone with you in order to do things. And so yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, right? Like I'm not interested in phone-based financial things at all.
No.
Yeah. So anywho, okay. So are we done with PayPal?
We're done with PayPal. Do we want to, so we're doing Tulsi.
Okay. So Tulsi. I do want to say one quick thing. We don't need to go deep into this, but since it came up slightly when we were talking about PayPal and Candace Owens, did you see Kanye on Tucker Carlson?
Yeah. First of all, I think he looks amazing with the beard.
Right.
I think it's a really good look. It's interesting how first of all, I love Kanye. I love him. I get that he's like a neurodivergent, brilliant guy. It's interesting the amping up of the Jew hatred, especially in light of woke culture. It's so interesting how casually people like, oh, these Jews. I think it's just interesting. What did you think of it?
It was it was interesting to watch how his mind works. Like, and he acknowledges
so
it.
Self-conscious.
Tucker asks him a question, and like he says a bunch of other stuff that eventually circles back to answering the question if you're aware enough to understand a diversity of ways of talking about the same kind of idea.
I think he's so used to being misunderstood, misquoted, and slammed that there's the part of him that this is what I want to say, and then there's the other part that's like, well, if you say this, then this. He has so many different.
Right. He already knows what the 3 slapbacks are going to be, so he addresses the background of the 3 slapbacks before he even says the thing he really wants to say.
Totally.
I think most of the stuff he said in there is like self-evidently true, right? And this connects to what we're going to talk about later when we talk a little bit about Rashida Tlaib sort of as well. But he said some interesting stuff, and the biggest thing, I never bring this stuff up with my sister or her family anymore because we're at peace and I don't want to, but I know my sister's husband both like loves Black Lives Matter and loves Kanye West. So I'm trying to imagine how he is resolving all of this in his own mind. Like he has a bunch of those like Yeezy shoes and, he likes his music, but like, I know didn't know how to deal with it when Kanye said he liked Trump. So like now, like I'm just trying, I would love to be like the fly on the wall inside of that dome, right? To see how he's coping with it.
I mean, I honestly think it was brilliant because I also listened to Candace Owens follow up with Tucker, and I thought it was a really interesting, like kind of live art performance piece that they did. Right. So clever. And I like, she made a really good point of like, it's amazing the backlash for something as simple as White Lives Matter.
Right. But I just like the way,
I love Kanye. I would love him to be president.
It's obviously true. It's just like, okay.
It's so crystal clear. I think he's badass. I think he's an interesting, authentic artist.
What do you think about, I thought it was really interesting, the things he said about Jared and Josh Kushner and how Tucker acknowledged that those things are true. It wouldn't have surprised me at other times if Tucker had sort of glossed over that or kind of just moved past it sort of gracefully or whatever, right? Because Tucker's still involved in that sort of whatever that complex is, like that, whatever. But he was like you know, like his little afterwards comment after the thing is like, those things he said are true. Right. And just, I was like, okay.
I thought it was awesome. I'm intrigued. I'm glad that Kanye is like back in the public forefront, stirring shit up.
Yeah. I had never heard the word neurodivergent until like 2 weeks ago. And now like I hear it every day. I had never heard the word until 2 weeks
ago. Super in the zeitgeist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first day I ever heard it, I heard 3 times.
I can see it when Kanye's speaking and his pauses. Like I can totally, like, I don't know if it's a psychic thing, but I know exactly what's happening in his mind. He's operating on a lot of levels.
Yeah. I think Tucker handled Kanye's, when I say handled, I don't mean like in a mind control way, but I think he dealt with it in the conversation way better than Joe Rogan did in the interview with Kanye.
Oh yeah, but Joe Rogan needs to like subtly put him down because of the Trump thing, you know, like I felt like Joe Rogan was more placating him, but I felt like Tucker had genuine respect for him. I did not feel that from Joe.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, on to Tulsi.
Do you want to start?
Okay, so the other night I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, I haven't seen Tulsi. I haven't seen a video from Tulsi or her make a guest appearance or anything anywhere in a couple of weeks. I wonder where she is. Maybe she's deployed, right? Because she's still in the National Guard and all of that kind of stuff. I'm like, because this happens sometimes. She'll disappear for a few months and we don't know till after that she's been deployed because they have to keep that secret now because she's famous and blah, 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 right? So I'm like, maybe she's deployed. And then I wake up like 2 hours later and there's a post from her announcing her podcast. And this was before anyone else said anything about it. It was almost like she did like a little test thing, like a little teaser for like, it was like 1 minute and 30 seconds. And then in the morning I woke up and there was a full thing. And then I saw she was on Joe Rogan and then she's making the rounds and all this kind of stuff. And my first thought was, she did exactly the thing that we talked about last time in her announcement. She multiple times referred to this country as our democracy. Right. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. The timing on this. Right. And, I didn't know what this, everybody's been texting me because they know that what you and I have been tracking and whatnot. And people are like, okay, is she going to announce as the Unity Party or is she going to announce with Ron DeSantis? Like what the fuck, kind of thing. But everyone knows, they're like, oh, it's exactly what you said, whatever kind of thing. Right. So I've been tracking this. And then I saw that she popped up on Joe Rogan. And so I listened. It's been a long time since I listened to an entire Joe Rogan podcast because I don't go to Spotify generally or any of that kind of stuff. But I forced myself to listen to the whole thing. And we are definitely, whatever all this, there's been tons of things that have happened in the last 2 weeks. And in my head, they're definitely coordinated. At what level they're coordinated, I don't know. Again, is this like orchestrated by machinations, or is this like the grand symphony of the universe magnetizes all these things that happen at the same time? Is that how the synchronicity really works? And so that means the real versions of things and the fake versions and everything in between. But I'm like, all right, like the season is here we go. So
yeah, she's definitely the October surprise. As I was listening to it, I started to feel like, did they create Ukraine and the trans thing just so she could sweep in and be the hero? It had me wondering like the extent of Hegelian dialectic game that we're actually playing.
Right.
One thing that I think is interesting, do you know the herb Tulsi?
Yes, the tea. Yes.
Do you know it's an adaptogen?
Yes.
So what it does is if you are, let's say that you're like, it'll balance your adrenals, right? So if you need more adrenal energy, it'll raise it up. If you're running too much adrenal energy, it'll tone it down. So she's the synthesis.
Totally.
Tulsi is the synthesis in terms of the herb kingdom. Right. And Tulsi Gabbard is the embodied synthesis.
You know what Gabbard means?
No, I'll look it up.
So it's kind of interesting so first of all, I thought the interview with Joe Rogan was very basic bitch. Like there was nothing really new or interesting said at all. I felt like it was her least interesting interview with him she's had.
I disagree, but gabbard means a kind of heavy built vessel, barge, or lighter, especially for inland navigation. Oh,
Okay. She's a military person. This makes perfect sense.
totally. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. So she's against drones. She likes more conventional warfare, right? You know, she doesn't like the drones and I mean, she does like drones. Never mind. She does like drones. She doesn't like regime change. She likes drones though.
Doesn't like regime change, right?
Okay. So that's interesting. So she is the vessel, she is the tank that will balance right. She's going to be the leader of the military dictatorship as it comes in, but it's going to be the hot, reasonable military dictator. She's going to be
100%. So I thought this was incredible. This was scripted beginning to end.
That's what I mean when I say that. Yeah.
Totally scripted and extremely well crafted. Like so deftly crafted in terms of her weaving and her extreme concern about woke culture, but especially nuclear war with Ukraine. And then this basically was a campaign announcement, regardless of how many times she denied that it was. Right. But even things where she mentioned going to Chernobyl and she said, and it's harder to queue up, as I mentioned, because we don't have the benefit of the transcript. But she said, I think it was after my second deployment that I went to Chernobyl. And it was like, you could have told us about going to Chernobyl without mentioning that, but you needed to mention that you have military experience, that you like everything was really layered like that. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it was tightly packed as far as the bringing up her calling out Kamala and the way that they replayed that in the debates. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like it was so scripted by like a very, very experienced and talented screenwriter.
Yeah, that's what there was nothing off brand or off script. There was no, I mean, they both she's very well spoken. She, like she's on a lot of levels. She's a very impressive person, right?
I wish she wasn't captured because I thought there was nothing she said that I didn't agree with.
So, I mean, she says some things I disagree with, but this is the thing that's with her that like, I mean, there was a period of time where like, I definitely liked her and I thought maybe, and that passed a long time ago. Right.
Has she ever publicly denounced CFR or WEF?
She acknowledged that. So when they were being critical of some public statement that was made, she said that statement came out in this magazine that is a publication of CFR. That's the closest. I also heard Nico House one time ask her about her association with them, and she basically didn't deny it. She just said, like, I didn't know. I was new in Washington. I got invited. I checked it out. I was there for a year or two. That was the extent of my thing.
Do you believe that?
So I think, well, there's a couple of things. So I think apparently there's also linkages, according to John Brisson, with her to like CNP, which is more right-wing, right? Which would be the connection with Fox News and all of that kind of stuff, Council on National Policy. And I've never seen her address that. I also have not seen anyone ask her about it. So sometimes you can't address something until you're asked. So I can't hold her responsible for something that nobody has asked her. If she has asked and she walks away, so I'm going to have to, okay.
But she did insist in the interview that she rose to the top specifically through grassroots independent support and never had any other. And it felt like she was doubling down on that in the same way that Joe tells us that he's not controlled.
Well, there's something about Tulsi, and I still cannot figure out why. Like, if there's something I'm missing here. When she does speak, she speaks with a sincerity that I believe she believes all the things she says.
Well, and this goes back to Adam Curry's assessment of Robert Malone. She's done so much military time. She could be super controlled and not have a fucking clue.
She doesn't show some of the telltale signs of people who've been through that kind of military brainwashing, but there's new technologies coming online all the time. So this may be a level of mind control we haven't seen before, but she's also a deeply religious person from childhood. And she's part of the human potential movement, right? And So I don't know too much about it, but the human potential movement arose out of the counterculture of the 1960s and formed around the concept of an extraordinary potential that its advocates believed to lie largely untapped in all people. The movement takes as its premise the belief that through the development of their, quote, human potential, unquote, people can experience a life of happiness, creativity, and fulfillment, and that such people will direct their actions within society towards assisting others to release their potential. Adherents believe that the collective effect of individuals cultivating their own potential will be positive change in society at large. There's connections to the Esalen Institute. There's, Self-Actualization, Institute for Achievement of Human Potential, hippie cults, all this. So and I think they talk about Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs and stuff. I actually think her husband's name is Abraham. So we find, like, when I've looked deep into my own mind control, I find that there are people in my life with names that are the titles of projects that I was involved in. And I'm not saying they're actively doing something, but it's almost like they stand there as like a cue card to remind me of like what my trajectory is supposed to be, right? Like I've had all kinds of weird stuff like that in my life, and that continues to till now. Like the name Monroe is around me at like an absurd level that like the Gateway Program, Monroe Institute kind of shit is like, it's got to be that, right?
Yeah.
I think between her religious background and then this, let's see, I want to see if there's an article that connects her to it. I know I've heard it from
Huxley was also part of the human potential movement.
Who?
Aldous Huxley.
Yes. Okay, but let's just see if I can. I remember John told me about it, and then I did find an article at one point. Let's see. There is a few articles about okay, no, this here's another one. Though this is a different one. This is more recent. That apparently she was also part of some kind of cult that a relative of hers was big in, called the Science of Identity Foundation, and that has some stuff.
Okay.
Right. So it seems like she's probably of a background, which is where like, and I talked about this in the show I did with, I guess it was with John Brisson, the last show I did with John Brisson, the place where like religion meets like hippie cults and stuff like that. Right. She seems to come from a background where her parents and her family and things that she's been involved with, that there is a lot of that. So she may be like incredibly sort of susceptible to a certain strain or type of like, culted mind control programming, that some things she says it the same every time she says it, as if it's like a script, kind of like when Joe Rogan does his like DMT talk, right? Or whatever, like at a certain point, he's just like reading the script. Like, so I think there's some of that. Obviously, she has been in the military, and we don't know when she goes on these deployments. My guess would be at this point, she's in very secret, private kinds of units that may be doing something entirely different than anything we think of as having to do with the military. It could be just like complete like experimentation in the irregular warfare that we talked about when we were going to do that thing at some point about the Albury Marcus or whatever kind of thing, right? Like, I don't know, but there's a level of sincerity with her that comes across that doesn't come across with almost anyone else you and I offer critique on, right? Like that is harder for me to go, this person is like some sort of like horrible, amoral shyster manipulating their audience, Like, I think she really believes the things she says. So she's under at least as much mind control as the people that she's charged with controlling. Go ahead.
Okay. The one clip I have is going to show you where she's totally aware that she's part of this.
Okay.
So I'm going to share it in a second, but I agree with you. She speaks like, this is obviously so completely coordinated. I'm sure the waiting list to get on Joe's show, he's got to be booked out months and months and months. And she just hops on as she's made this announcement. And Joe's like, oh, do you want to make this announcement, as though it wasn't completely there the whole time? And I also want to remind everyone, because I feel like everyone forgets that Joe Rogan's an actor and has always been an actor. So everyone's like, no, he says he's not controlled. It's like, he's a fucking actor, and this is the role of a lifetime that he's playing right now. So one thing that I did notice about Tulsi, and I love, as I said, I love most everything she said, is that she's extremely aware of her languaging. She is extremely aware of the power of words. So when she's fear mongering as hardcore as she has been about Ukraine, that's a game. She knows what those words are doing. And I'm starting to think that the Ukraine thing was set up as the problem to which she could come in as the solution for. And I'm going to play you the clip. So that you can, I just need audio share. So I'll share the sound. I'm going to go back a couple seconds. Here we go.
The RNC and the DNC. If we're threatened by a legitimate third party, this is how we could stop that in its tracks.
Yeah.
And so now a third party is essentially almost impossible.
As of today, yes. It would be great to live in a world where that were not the case, but when you look at the practical application of our electoral system right now, it's not a viable path.
Are you going to run for any kind of office as an independent?
I'm not running for anything now. I am deeply, deeply concerned about this very real and imminent threat of nuclear war that no one is talking about, that no one is preparing the American people for, that people are kind of sitting ducks because of the decisions that our leaders have made. If I felt that there was a way that I could stop that and make a difference and impact that and pull us back from the brink, then yeah, I'd seriously consider running again.
What do you make of that?
So yeah, no, I did hear that part. Yeah, well, I mean, my whole thing, like there was a segment where she explained why she thought she was referring to Ross Perot and why she thought third parties were not ever going to be allowed. So that—
a lot of talk about that for someone who claims she's not considering running.
The what?
A lot of talk about what is necessary for third party.
Well, so this is like, okay, so does this mean like, is she going to run? Is this suddenly there is going to pop up a third party that can support her? Is it going to be Andrew Yang's party? Is it going to be
100%.
Is it going to be the Unity Party, or is it going to be the Ron DeSantis Tulsi Gabbard ticket? Right.
No, she was really insistent about not going for Republican. This is, remember, Brett Weinstein, the Unity Party. That's what we're seeing. But why did she just say, I can't think about running if there's a way that I can sweep in and help this
pull us back
crisis? Then I will. What does one have to do with the other?
Right.
And why does she have to have something to do with it? Does she care more about us evading nuclear crisis, or does she care more about she gets the hero points for evading the nuclear crisis, and then because she gets those hero points, then she'll run? You see the breakdown there? For me, that was the weak point in the whole thing. Wait, that's where the cracks were.
It wasn't an answer to the question he asked. It was like a shift to like, well, I don't know, like only if I can save us from nuclear war. Like,
right, but how is she going to save us from nuclear war?
Right. Like, I mean, I get what you're saying. I don't know if it's going to be Unity, if it's going to be something completely different, if it's going to be Andrew Yang's Forward Party, or if there's going to be some, I mean, I have no idea.
Before we get there, we're going to see a scenario where Tulsi's influence pulls us back from the brink of nuclear war. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. That's what they're seeding the groundwork for. I don't know how she's going to do it.
Right. Well,
but I think that's what's happening.
So also this week we had the thing with Kanye West. We had him acknowledging his friendship with Elon Musk, who has put forward the hope of doing some kind of solution, right? So, and Brett's obsessed with Elon Musk as well.
As is Eric.
As is Tim Pool, as is all these other people. So is there going to be some sort of like fucking SpaceX party or something?
Like Kanye, Elon, and Tulsi save us from the brink of nuclear war. The other piece that I thought was the tell, I'm telling you, I think that's what's good. So the other tell was when she said,
there was another tell. I have another tell.
Another tell was where she said, she was kind of talking about her presidency. It's so weird that she's denying it. And she's like, yeah, and there are going to be some sacrifices that are going to be hard. And I'm like, oh, that's where she's going to put in Brett and Daniel Schmachtenberger to demand the mandates and who can't speak and whatnot. But she was foreshadowing the like hard part of her reign.
I don't necessarily remember that part, but I'm not saying it didn't happen. Like I listened to it broken up. Yeah, I listened to the whole thing, but over, I'd stop and do other stuff. In her announcement on her own podcast, and I don't know if she said it on Joe's thing or not, she talked about how there's like racism against white people now, right? Yes. And so that also goes along with the White Lives Matter part. I've never heard her talk about racism against white people before. I've never heard her say that. She also was very clear when Joe Rogan asked her what is a woman, she said, I am a woman, right? So it is interesting that she's identifying herself as all of these like things that need a savior right now. We need to know what a woman is. We need someone to protect the white people. We need someone to bring us back from the brink. We need someone, right? So it was very, I agree with you about that.
But she also noticed her pronunciation of Hawaii. Like it's so over enunciated. Like when Tim Ferriss talks about going to Peru to do ayahuasca, it's like these ways of emphasizing her like POC points or whatnot.
Yeah. So, okay, while you were pulling up that cue, I did look at the article. I read a few paragraphs of the article. So it's from the Economic Times and it's dated. What is the date on this article? That's weird that I can't find a date on it because it's talking about the Ukraine war. So this is a new article. This isn't one
in the browser.
October 11th. So it was right in line as well. Okay. So Tulsi Gabbard is the talk of the town for her opinion on the LGBTQ plus community and misinformation about Ukraine biolabs. She also claimed of being earmarked by big techs for calling U.S. President Joe Biden an aggressor on social media. Her aunt reveals secret cult connection. Tulsi Gabbard's relative, Dr. Caroline Sinaviana Gabbard, said that her niece was raised in a secretive cult named the Science of Identity Foundation, where the members are loyal to a cloistered guru named Chris Butler. Caroline Sinaviana Gabbard further said her niece's career is all about chasing power, as Butler wants a strong political influence. So who's this Chris Butler person? What are the teachings of, what are the teachings of the SIF? Most of SIF's teaching are lethally homophobic, often anti-Islamic and misogynist. The members are forced to worship Butler, who's considered like a god. That's kind of, I don't know if I believe it. I don't know what to think about any of that kind of stuff, but what is that Science of Identity Foundation? I want to know what that is.
Yeah, so I just looked it up, but there's nothing like, of course, I always want to know who's funding it.
Right. Chris Butler. But it's Science of, it's SIF. It sounds too much like SFI.
Oh, that's a really good point.
Okay. Science of Identity Foundation.
Okay, so now I'm on their Wikipedia.
Religious organization in Hawaii.
So in Hawaii.
Yep. All right. Butler gained followers through the Haiku Meditation Center, Krishna Consciousness. Somebody else was emailing me about Hare Krishna mind control earlier today. Okay, let's see. Theology. The organization combines the teaching of yoga and other aspects of Krishnite Vaishnava Hinduism. Although grounded in Hinduism, Butler has asserted that SIF philosophy of bhakti yoga does not conflict with Christianity, with Islam, with any bona fide religious system. We're trying to teach the essence of bhakti yoga without having anybody say, oh, that's Hindu, oh, that's Christian. The teachings are similar to those of Prabhupada, that human beings are sparks of God whose sole purpose is to please the Lord. Followers must practice vegetarianism. She is a vegetarian and are not allowed to drink alcohol, smoke, have illicit sex, or gamble. She doesn't do any of those things.
I I mean, like she would announce it, you know,
No,
it's like,
she has like for a while, she was like putting up vegetarian cooking videos on her local page and shit like that. Okay, so it definitely seems like she is part of this. It looks like they've been putting out a lot of new videos over the course of the last week or so.
I feel like, I mean, the obvious question marks about her are CFR, WEF.
Right.
You know, the fact that she thought Trump was, I know she didn't vote to impeach him, but she said publicly that she thought that what he did was criminal. I don't even know what he did. It's hard to keep track of all the impeachments. But her languaging around the fear mongering around the nuke thing felt extremely reckless, given how much she clearly understands about how language programs consciousness.
Right.
And it seemed like she's seeding the groundwork. Like, the more these people fear monger about nuclear war, the more safe I feel about there's no way it's going to happen. They're just going to create this narrative to take us to the brink. She, Elon, and Kanye are going to rescue us, and then she'll be our next president.
Do you, just out of curiosity, have you waded into it all, into the waters at all of the whole idea that like nuclear stuff is an entire hoax and there's no such thing?
I've heard that. I haven't done enough research. I mean, it's weird here because of all the labs here and all the secrecy around the labs here and all the people, because it's a small town, who I know who are part of the labs and the weird rules that they live by. So I don't know. It would seem really fucking stupid. Like, I don't know why we would have nukes. I don't know why anyone would engage a nuclear war. It doesn't make any logical sense to me, but very little in this matrix makes sense to me.
Well, so much, like, I mean, I have, you know, I have a lot of thoughts. Obviously, I don't know that I have complete thinking on this. But most of the places where they say that there have been nuclear radiation spills or leaks or things like that are, in my opinion, areas that they just don't want people to go near because there are particle accelerators there. And whatever that energy field that creates is challenging for some people's physiology. That's different than it being nuclear radiation. But there's also anomalous activities that go on because of that, including, you know, dimensional issues, apparitions, things, dimensional, all kinds of weird stuff, right? But right back in Chatsworth, where I say there's a particle accelerator, where Rocketdyne and Boeing are, where the Manson cult was, where all that kind of shit is, like they say that there's been leaking radiation since the 70s. Right. And but think about that. If you don't want people going back somewhere because there's something there that is going to cause that causes anomalous things that you don't want to have to explain, right? Or you just don't want people snooping around back there because you don't want people to know what you have back there. Saying that there's something there that will cause them to get cancer will keep them away. It's perfect.
Totally. I haven't looked into it, but I mean, her Chernobyl story seemed
ridiculous.
Performative.
There's apples on the tree, but don't eat them.
It was just a bizarre story to pull out. And the extent of fear mongering was so anathema to how she is normally so responsible and how she normally communicates.
Yeah.
And to say that no one's talking about it, that's not my experience. All my, everyone I'm tuning into is for sure talking about it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, people are definitely talking about it. I don't really know what to make of this. I think the only question for me is which layer of the op is she coming in from, right? Because I don't like, I see it all as like, there's the mainline control system, which that's their preferred way of things being, but they have all of these different layers set up, right? So that if this one fails, if people aren't buying this one, we can go to this one, we can go to this one. Let's give them only as much truth as they need to accept most of what we want, right? We hope that they don't require any truth, but we're willing to give them whatever amount will get them to go along with the most amount of bullshit possible. We can also stuff that in.
Yeah.
And so I'm not, to me, there's like, I see this all as like a graph, right? Like where there's like the control system up here, and then there's like absolute, chaos controlled chaos, non-controlled truth and freedom down here, right? And that there's all of these installations set up at various levels, and some of them have like crossover and alliance and whatever, and others kind of don't, or on like a separate rung and whatnot. And I'm having trouble identifying like what her, like exactly which level she's coming from, and like which are her core alliances and which ones she just tolerates because if they need to use them, they will.
Yeah. So my gut on this is that she's part of the op that we're covering. So I still think she's going to be paired with Andrew Yang.
Okay.
They're going to be the Unity ticket, or if they rebrand it, whatever, but they'll be the third party candidates. And then as our first woman president, then I think she's going to set up the whole SFI consilience, like that kind of ruling elite class to advise her on, you know, free speech, the next bioweapon that they drop, who's going to get the.
You think it's more likely she'll be president or that she'll be like the Secretary of Defense?
No, she's going to be, she's going to save us from nuclear. Like they're setting it up for her to be the one who takes us back from the brink of nuclear war. That'll be the slam dunk that gets her elected. I think she's going to be president. I think for sure she's going to be our first president. And I think some really creepy shit is going to happen under her reign. I want to be wrong, but that's what I'm seeing.
So it's interesting. Like she's really, really into drones, right? And I wonder, like, I don't think Aubrey's interviewed her yet, but I would love to see if we could find connective tissue between the Aubrey's industrial complex and hers, because I could see her being interested in the irregular military, like psychic sort of soldiers, like, you know, kids who were raised on microdosing, who are able to, you know, sort of like take out terrorist cells with their mind, kind of Jedi shit, human potential, whatever, right? Like, I would love to see where the crossovers lie there. Obviously, she has she doesn't talk about it extensively, right? But she seems to be a very like sober person who doesn't do any of that stuff, right? But she probably either does or knows people who achieve some of those states through meditation. And they're generally like, okay, well, this other cult does it this other way with the psychedelics. We don't do that. That's not what we're about. But the state that we're achieving is the same, right? Like it's a different kind of method. And maybe it's just different cults. Like maybe the same system has set up the one cult, like they're going to do it this way. This cult's going to do it this way. We're going to see which is the most effective. We're going to make fusion of those once we discover all of that. I would love to see if we can find any more connections between any of the people connected to SFI or Consilience or Rebel Wisdom or any of those people, and any comments or discussions they've had with or about Tulsi Gabbard. Yeah,
that'd be a good path to follow. I mean, the fact that she's on Rogan, I think indicates an adjacent friendliness to psychedelics and that whole thing, that he's willing to have her on, and they're so chummy. But then again, she's grew up in this cult, so that's another X factor, and it's hard to say.
What does Mickey say about her? Did he ever talk to you much about her? When you used to be friends with him? What is going on with him? Like, I don't understand, but okay, yeah. He sells ivermectin now, right? I don't know, or whatever. I think he was just promoting someone else who sells whatever, right? But did he ever say anything about gleaning any clarity about who she really was as a person, or
I'm not remembering anything.
He was just starstruck.
Yeah, I honestly don't remember.
Okay. All right, let's do this. Let's wrap it up and move over to the other side. Wordspodcast.locals.com, Afterwords number 67. On the other side, we'll see you there.